Hi everyone, hope you're all doing well. I wanted to make a quick vid because I made it to 300 subscribers. So I want to thank everybody who subscribed. I never thought this channel would get to that point because it's really, I don't really, there's not any single group that's going to like what I have to say. So there's really not many people that this content is really meant for. And on top of that, YouTube would never present it to anybody at all. So if you found this channel, it's because somebody else showed it to you. So just wanted to thank everybody for subscribing. And I'm going to try and make this vid quick today, but I just want to start off by saying one of the main things I want to talk about is why it's so important for people to understand what happened on 9/11. And it couldn't be more important to understand than right now, since we had this whole thing with the what's going on in Israel. But I think one of the most important things about 9/11 that people need to understand, and it's something that most people don't want to look at because it would totally upset their whole worldview of how they think the world works. So it's something that I know a lot of people like avoid looking into, and but it's honestly, until you can come to terms with what happened on 9/11, you will be living in a fantasy reality until the day you die. And I'm not going to go too much into it, but all I want to say is that what was done on 9/11, and it's very easy. I'm going to, without going into any of the construction aspects of it and the demolition aspects, if you want to go into that, you can go to AA and 9/11 Truth. I'm going to come back to these guys later. But you could look at this channel here, and they pretty much do a good explanation of the physics and the problem with the whole official version. But there's some other stuff I want to talk about with this too. As you can see, look who's popping up on here now, Mr. Controlled Opposition #2, and look over here, he's with all the rest of the controlled opposition. But I'll get back to that in a bit. But the first thing that people need to understand is that just looking at 9/11 from a rational standpoint, what our government is wanting you to believe is that there was this boogeyman ragtag group of individuals that were just scattered all over the Middle East everywhere, and that these people spent millions and millions and millions of dollars and years of preparation, right? Do you understand what I'm saying here? To do this supposed terrorist attack on 9/11. They spent millions of dollars and years in preparation for this attack. And what was the end goal there? And I mean, that right there is enough for any rational person to understand that what they were presented about that whole event was a complete fabricated farce. There was no benefit to all that happened from their little $1 million supposed terrorist attack was that our military just went into their countries and had a free reign over all their people for 2.5 decades. So, like, just that in itself is enough for anybody that has any sort of intelligence to understand that the events that you were presented about that day are so far from reality. There was no, what was their next move? What was this ragtag gang of supposed militants? What was their next move? Like, it's the whole thing is so absurd. It's so obvious that it was a staged event. And I mean, and if people, and that's the most important thing that people need to take away, and that this is what most people don't want to admit to themselves, is that what the lengths that the people that control our society are willing to go through in order to keep reality from the population. I mean, there's huge percentages of the population who don't buy the 9/11 story. But yet, you will never ever hear a single politician come out and question it. And that's because, and this goes back to the other thing that I'm going to get into later, is that anybody who believes that there's two sides of our government and that they're fighting with each other about the best way to run the country, let me assure you, you are delusional. What we actually have here are a bunch of private and state interests who pay these politicians to just do whatever they pay them to do. And both sides are all paid for by the same corporations. And this will get into one of my next points with the privatization of the border security, which is I'll get into that in a bit. But what people need to know is that the left and the right are not, it's only the population of fucking idiots that are fighting back and forth over the left and the right. At the top, they're all controlled by the same corporations and foreign and domestic state entities, basically. Whether it's police unions, or every single politician that is being put up for you to vote for is controlled by the same corporations. So your whole illusion of like voting for the right person to get in to fix things is fully delusional. But I got a little bit sidetracked there. But the one thing that people need to grasp about 9/11 is the depths of deceit and pure evil and tyranny that your government is willing to lie to you about in order to get a response that they wanted to get. So the whole response, what they wanted from the fake terrorist attacks is they wanted the U.S. population to be so scared and so fearful, which they were, that the government could just go do whatever they wanted and nobody would question a single thing that they were doing. And I mean, think about how much tax money was wasted and went into the hands. And this goes back to the same thing, that these private corporations are funding all this shit into existence. And that goes for the wars, goes for the Ukraine. It's all these weapons manufacturers. They're the people that are controlling your government. So just understand, any of you that have any illusions that you're going to vote for Trump or vote for Biden or vote for anybody that they present to you and that's going to fix the problem, you're living in a completely delusional fantasy reality. And I mean, if you can't see what's going on at this point with the government, then you're in a really bad place mentally, because it's so blatantly obvious that everything is being controlled by social engineers, and they know exactly how to manipulate your emotions to get you to react in the way that they want you to react. And they're going to give you the solution that they already got planned for you. And so, but the reason I wanted to bring up 9/11 is because it's very relevant to what's happening now in Israel. I just want to say that there's no other more dangerous time for an American citizen than when Israel wants to use our military for their own purposes. That is the most dangerous time for an American citizen as far as terrorism goes, because now, since this whole thing broke out, which I'm sure the whole thing that we're being presented as far as what happened over there is a fantasy reality. There's no doubt in my mind that it's all intelligence can create it. And it's just the same thing. Like, what would this small group have to gain by doing this? Nothing. Zero. Nothing at all. It's just the whole thing. The whole scam is so easy to see now that, like, the other night I was watching the news, and the propaganda that I heard these people talking about with with the Israel-Hamas thing it was unbelievable. It was so blatant, the propaganda. There were on these mainstream channels, all of them pretty much. This one lady was pretty much like, if you're a Trump supporter, this is how you have to believe. And if you're a Biden supporter, this is how you have to believe. And guess what? Both beliefs were fully in support of Israel. The whole thing is just so nonsensical at this point. And people, I think really what it is that people are really scared of the changes that are going to need to be made if there's going to be any sort of rational society at all, because we're heading into I want to cross it between Nazi Germany and idiocracy. So I don't know. I can't really imagine how that would end, but I can't see it ending well for the average citizen. So, I mean, the whole political thing is so absurd at this point. It is WWF wrestling. It's the same exact thing. There's no difference at all. They have those people, the politicians that you're voting for, they're not whether it's Trump or anybody else that they're putting in front of you, they're not making any of this decisions at all. They're all being funded into existence by weapons manufacturers and security firms and everybody else that benefits off of all these government contracts. And I'm going to get into that next, and that's the border patrol, not the immigration nonsense. And I had seen a video. True Stream Media made a video about it yesterday or the day before about the immigration crisis. And what people don't get is that the immigration that we're getting on that southern border is about 1/10 what it was in 1990 and the 2000s. The immigration from that border is so much less than it was at that point. But what happened is that right at the end of Obama's presidency, they pretty much privatized the border control, and a whole bunch of other aspects of national security got privatized. And that is the point. So don't, like, the whole Trump biosecurity, the wall thing, that wall, like, people, it's so funny. People do not have a clue at how their emotions are being manipulated by people that are way smarter than they are. Like, people actually believe that we're like in some immigration crisis right now. They don't. It's all being created by corporations. It's that, like I said, and the reason I'm talking about this is because I have personal experience with it. I did from about around 9/11 till I'd say for about 10 years after, I did commercial construction. I built high-rise office buildings. And during that time, the influx of the Mexican workers was from right before 2001 until I'd say the mid-2000s, 2010s. There was it's what you're seeing now in these little migrant things that they're showing you on TV is nothing in comparison to what I witnessed firsthand in the construction industry in Pennsylvania, which is way, way far from the border. So just understand that you're being presented the illusion by private corporations that want to control your whole reality that you believe you exist in. And they're leading you to believe that you're being under attack from these immigrants. But they're the ones that the whole thing is funded into existence by private corporations. As soon as they allowed private corporations to start handling national security and the border, this was the next thing that was going to happen, because they always need more. They want more money now. So they have to create crisis so that they can get more of the tax cattle's money. So if they can get every single Trump supporter to believe that there's some national emergency around these immigrants that are fucking nothing in the grand scheme of things, then that works for them, because what they'll have then is they'll have half of the idiots in the population begging for a national, like just for security, more and more security. Give us more security. The borders aren't safe. Give us more security. My door's not safe. Let's put 3 cops out there. It's the whole thing is just so nonsensical, and it's so obvious that this immigration thing. And here, if you look, you can just search right here, privatized border security. You could read tons of different articles on why it was a bad idea to privatize the border, because you're going to get the same. What happens is then they just, private entities use social engineering schemes to pretty much just trick a good demographic of the population into worshiping their own servitude by connecting it to one of their, like Trump, for example. Like they connected the border thing with the right. So now it's just how they mind control stupid fucking people. It really, it's so funny. What I'm getting as that somebody that witnessed firsthand the influx that happened in the 90s and 2000s, I see nothing even close to that happening now. So no matter what their numbers say here, I just want to show you this because it's fun. I always find it interesting, the stuff that they don't want people to see. Let's see if it's on here. Right here. So like here on this video, it says it has nothing to do with the border. It has to do with border security being privatized a few years back. That's when this whole show started. And then you get people trying to fight with me about it. And people are, these people that are stuck in their, what the media has told them about all this immigration stuff, they are so invested in it to their core. Like it's almost as important to them as getting their finger up Trump's ass. Like it's second to getting their finger up Trump's ass. Like it's unbelievable how these people latch on to the ideas that were basically implanted into their head. But I said the amount of people coming over is 10 times less. But what I find interesting is that there's other comments here that got blocked and they didn't show up. But then what you get is you want to get people that want to list numbers that were given testimony. Look, it's so funny. And if I looked at these channels, they'd probably be shill channels anyway. It's testimonies say otherwise, and then they go stating official numbers that the government gave them. And it's just truly, people are so latched on to these fantasy realities that have been social engineered into their conscious. And that's one of them too, that's one of the main ones right now is the immigration thing. It's a totally fantasy. It's not an issue. It's an issue. I will say it's an issue, but it's about 10 times less an issue now than it was 20 years ago. And the way that these private corporations are spinning things is to get the demographic that they've sold on it to just beg for more and more of their tax money to go into creating these biometric, and they don't realize that it's going to be used for them as well. It's not just to keep people out. It's just so that they can control all movement that they want to control. So just understand that. It's just, people are so out there. But that's, I'm not going to go into the other account, but if you want to go through this and look newest first, you'll be able to find the 2 comments that were deleted, which are the most relevant to like, it's so funny because I'll have people respond to me, then I'll try and come back to their response. And then as soon as I say something that they don't want people to know, then it doesn't show up. So it's just, YouTube's fucking useless. Like, I mean, the fact that my vids are even allowed on there, I find surprising. But nobody really sees them, so I guess it really don't matter. But so one of the other things, and this goes, I want to show you one more vid that goes to these issues that are purposefully being social engineered into the population. And it's just so funny to witness. I want to look at the absurdity of this situation. I'm going to play this real quick.
Navarro suck any good lately. What's wrong, Navarro? I think you like a big in your mouth. Ha ha ha. Page 23. The other boy, page 23.
Okay, so basically you have this pastor who is talking to the, I guess it's like a school board or something to that effect, or town hall or something to that effect, and he's complaining about the books that they have in the library at school because they're sexually explicit for young children. And I agree with him 100%. I agree with him 1,000%. But what the problem is that the people that he's talking to right now, the school board, they don't agree with it either. But the problem is that they are all they're worried about is their position in the school board. So whether they agree with it or not doesn't even matter, because what matters more to them than actually having a backbone or morals or want to improve society for the better, what's more important for them is just to go along with what some institution has told them that they need to put in their library to be compliant. So it just goes to show you that you have a whole room behind this guy who is in agreement with him, and you have the people that are in front of him who are yelling at him for using language that's in the books that are in the children's library. And just watch how this plays out. This just goes to show you the absurdity and the mind control of these order followers that are controlling all of our lives. The people in the audience, and all of them, these people are all guilty. This guy's biggest mistake was wanting other people to teach his children. That was his mistake, along with everybody else who wants to put their children in the hands of strangers.
Here it is. What's the educational benefit of talking about What's the educational benefit of talking about that? Is that going to help someone on the SAT score? Hear me kind. Get a shot at that. She can care less. That's a sign. She needs to put down her sign. For a second. Oh, you're putting me out. For what? For asking you to abide by the rules. A board member held up a sign, but the audience couldn't hold up signs. This is tyranny, and we're dealing with a corrupt government system.
Okay, did you just see the absurdity of all that? The people, there's a whole room full of people that are cheering as he is being escorted out by authority. So, like, these people in the audience, this just goes to show you how fucking they're on their phone recording the tyranny as they're clapping for him. If they had any sort of back at all, they would all stand up and just go straight toward the people sitting in the front with pitchforks. But instead, what they do, and this is why nothing will ever change, is that they're applauding as this guy gets escorted out after trying to make his point. And like I said, my best advice to him is educate your own children, or you'll be like him, basically, getting escorted out of some authority, getting escorted out of some building by the authorities and not realizing you've been enslaved your whole life. It's just so absurd, unbelievable. So that's all I wanted to say about that. And that's another issue. Like, this is literally an issue that was created. This whole thing with these books and these schools, this is all fantasy reality. There was an institution that sits above these school boards that decided that one way that they can really, really, really get a radicalized reaction out of the population was to do this and to start pushing this, the pride stuff and all that. That's only being done because it's a divide and conquer scheme, and they knew that it would get huge pushback. And like I said, most of the people that were on that board didn't want any parts of what was in that book, but they were going to accept it because that's what their little authority figures told them that they're going to do. And that's how this whole system is. That's what's holding this tyranny up that we're currently living in. The fantasy reality and the tyranny that we're currently living in is being held up by people just pushing them buttons for their masters just the right way, and just it's such a disgrace, the state that our society's in. And so I don't want to go on for too long here, but the last thing I wanted to talk about was now it's kind of a bittersweet thing for me because I used to be a big fan of architects and engineers for 9/11 Truth, but what's happened over the years is that it's just they've been turned into a demographic, and it's clear to see here. It wasn't always like this, but you could just see it started with and like I said, it's just too. I called this. This is exactly what I called. Remember when I made my last video? I said that Tucker fucker Carlson had come out and that he had said something about 9/11. Well, looky here. Look right here. A couple days later, the other little guy in the little controlled opposition scumbag, they got a little interview with him. Or JFK Jr. expresses doubts about 9/11. Follow him because he's on your side, just like Trump was on your side when he did it, when he was campaigning his first time around. It's just there, and that's one thing that kind of makes me sad. Like if you go through these, I would look at all the videos before the Tucker vid. So, because in my opinion, that's when these people have just been turned into a demographic now. So, but that's the only other thing I want to talk about is like, look, you're either with us or them. 9/11 Truth, a political weapon, all bullshit. Every single person that's on here is controlled opposition. Every single one of them. Every one of them. Tucker and Dorr, it's actually good that they're next to each other because they actually play the same part for each side of the fake charade. And then you got Jesse Ventura, he's the so-called independent. And then you got the left over here with Marr, all controlled opposition, all bullshit. And now what's happening is that 9/11 Truth is going to be like there is a demographic that they're going to cater to. And nothing will ever come of any of it, but they'll use those people as political pawns and play with their emotions like they do. And people will fall for it. Well, I shouldn't say that. I think a lot of people that understand what happened on 9/11 would be sooner understand what's being done here. But that's all I wanted to say about that. Is just look, when Tucker did it, he's back here. I knew we were here. It is right here, and that's right after I made my vid. And then I had said in the vid that this clown here was also controlled opposition. And then don't you know it, 11 days later, then he shows up with his questioning doubts about 9/11. It's all nonsense. They're trying to play the 9/11 Truth movement as a political demographic so that they can move them around their little demographic playboard and play with their emotions. And people really need to. I think it's a little too late for most people at this point, to be honest. But I'm hoping some people. It's getting so blatant now that it's really hard to deny it and then have any kind of feel good about yourself, because you literally got to know that you're living in a fantasy delusion and then just kind of like forget about it. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how the next couple, especially till this next election, I think we're in for a really interesting ride, especially with the Israel nonsense over there. So it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out over the next 2 years. I'm willing to bet it's not going to be good, though, for the average American citizen. But we'll see what happens. Alrighty, guys. Take care, and thanks for the subscriptions. Hopefully I get some more. And I'll be trying to make some more vids soon.